So when I'm introducing someone else who's going to be the speaker, I usually say, and the spotlight goes. And so I'll just put down the announcements and pick up my, oh yes, and then there's applause and the audience goes wild. That's right, that comes next. So let us begin coming into this space, coming into the idea that we're all one in this space, one in consciousness, one in this ever-expanding idea of who I am. And I know, I speak for myself and for everyone as I say, I am stepping into this moment with a terrific amount of joy and excitement about so many things to come. And I know ultimately there's really only one thing going on: living the life that I live as an expression of the divine, and growing into that idea in ways I've yet to discover. But I am open and I am receptive to knowing that there is always more for me, and there's always more for me in every experience that I have. I'm eager to feel that in every part of my being. And whatever comes in, whatever I may think initially, or maybe immediately, but whatever surprising thing that may come, I move very quickly to the idea that there's something in this experience for me. I know when I look for the good, when I look for the great, when I look for the grace, that is what I find. And I'm eager to take every step, to greet every day, and to move into that space with immense joy. I am so grateful in this moment to simply be in this space, to have the vibrant life that I have, the many blessings that I have and can name. And I pause and consider the blessings in my life. It is good and very good to take the time to be grateful, to take the time to step into a space where I name those things that I'm grateful for, because I know that I get more of those things I am grateful for the vibrant health I enjoy, for the active, creative life that is before me, for the loving relationships, family, friends, all of the things that come my way, even brief encounters, can bring me joy. And I know that there is a divine way that moves through and is a common thread through all of my life. And I anchor it in gratitude for all that I have. And so in gratitude and in joy for the moments that are to come, I simply say yes, and I release this word, my word, knowing that it's my thoughts, it's my feelings, it's the expressed words that I have. I release them knowing that they are already done in the mind of God. So I just agree and say, and so it is. As I was thinking about the fact that I was doing a talk today, I will tell you, there are many things in my mind right now, the annual meeting that's coming, and other activities that we're planning. There are times when I think that I'm thinking of this and that, and my mind just pings around. And so which part of that am I talking about? But I couldn't actually focus on one thing yet. And then the most wonderful thing happened. Spirit just answered my call in such an interesting way. I was sitting, actually looking through some material, and got a text from my daughter, who lives in San Francisco. And she said, "I've lost my emerald ring, and I don't know what it is, and I'm so upset." So we exchanged some email, some texts about that. And I had asked her some questions, and I finally said, well, is it that you have used it and you all of a sudden don't have it? You know, like if I come home and there's one earring in and one earring that's not there, then I think it's just gone, is what I think. Or is it that you've looked for it, but it's just not where you thought it was? Because one is one thing, and the other is maybe it's just misplaced. And I just asked that question. Well, the next thing she came back to me with was a picture of her hand with the emerald ring on her finger. And then she goes on to explain how she found it. And we did make a joke, Reverend Valerie, about finding it in the macaroni salad. And so if you heard the talk on Sunday, you know what we're talking about. If not, maybe you need to listen to the YouTube. She didn't find it in the macaroni salad. She actually found it in a place that she had put it, but she didn't remember putting it, and it's not where she usually puts it, et cetera, et cetera. So actually, I texted her and said that maybe my topic tomorrow is going to be found things. And once I went there with it, my mind just went away. Because, and I'm sure this is part of it, anyone who's been in this center for a longer time, maybe as long as I have, in my early time here, probably within the first decade, if not the first 5 or 6 years, I was one story after another about found things. I had people come to me say, "Oh, you always find things. Please do a treatment for what they had lost." I'm not going to do them all, but they included, and this was one of my famous ones, I was rushing here one Sunday morning and got here and realized I didn't have my purse. I'd stopped off at the grocery store to get pastries for the, stuff like that. I was here early. I was at the store even earlier, and I realized I didn't have it. I didn't worry about it. I'll go get it, I said, after services, because I couldn't have left. Well, so I went to the counter and told them what I had done. It was my whole purse. And he laughed at me. No one had started anything like that in. So at that moment, I knew that I was going to get it back. And I can't tell you where that feeling came from. But I also know that I have read before that what is mine in consciousness. And I was with that idea. What is mine in consciousness. And I didn't even realize that Walt Whitman has said the same thing. He says, nothing is ever really lost, or can it be lost? No birth, identity, no object in the world, nor life, nor any visible thing. And I went, okay, that's what is mine. So by Tuesday of that week, this was Sunday, I was shopping. And when I was out shopping, there was this bin of purses at a department store that no longer exists here, but it was at this bin, and I looked at this purse. I thought, my gosh, that looks just like my purse. exactly like my purse. I couldn't even remember what mine looked like because it looked so much like this one. So I bought that purse. And I took it home and I realized I don't care about the purse. I couldn't even remember what it looked like, but the contents of that purse, that's mine. That's the part that's mine. The rest of the week went by, and it was the following week. And then I was getting telephone calls, by the way, where nobody said anything. And I knew that somebody had my purse. And they were calling me, and I don't know what they were thinking, but I got at least 2, maybe 3. I knew that's what it was. So by Friday of the second week, I used to take my husband to the bus stop to catch a bus for his work. And we're backing out early, like before 7 o'clock. And I looked over to the parkway beside our driveway. It was grassy. And I saw this manila envelope. Yes, I put it in park, got out, and looked in the thing. All of the contents of my purse were in that manila envelope. And paper clips that were in the bottom. Somebody just dumped it in. So that Sunday, I was doing announcements, and I got a flower dedication just so I could tell that story. Because it's not up to me to give a testimonial. That was not my role. But I figure we always have a dedication when we do flowers. So I got the flowers that Sunday and told that story. I was just filled to bursting with gratitude for the fact that it was turned. That's not the first time that I had left a purse anywhere. I'd had a couple of others that were easier to get back. I guess I needed a better lesson in how to manifest that. That may have been the third time. There was one more time that was even more epic because I left it on a subway train in Washington, D.C. Well, that was a bigger deal, and there was more in there. But I had to keep knowing. And it was a rough time because my ID was in there and I needed to fly home at some point. The short version is I did get it back. This time I got the purse. I wanted the purse this time. I like that purse. Still have that purse. And it is something that at that moment, I decided I needed to change a few things in my habits so that I didn't keep losing the purse. And so you may have seen me now with a purse wrapped around my neck. That is the only way I go in a store. It's the only way I go shopping. It's what I do. I don't leave it anywhere. So I did that. But I also moved into a space. And I do believe that what is mine in consciousness is mine. And so it actually is a lesson for many, many more things. There are many things that can be lost in life. And as we move through, some things we just release. Some things we let them go. But there are other things that we just drift away from. And one of the things that psychologists, social psychologists talk about, and even metaphysicians or people who go talk about past lives, if you know any people that do that, and I do, they will talk about how children, very young children, very often will say things about a different life. We have a nephew that did that as a very young child. He said to his mother, "You're not my real mother." And she didn't take offense. She didn't get upset about it. She had some understanding. He would use words and things when he was very young that were just different. But as he moved away from that, the identity of that, he's a young man in college at this point, so he's in a different space. But there is this idea that we lose our sense of connection with the divine that we seem to be born with. And if you look at the history, the metaphysical history of the Bible, it is the story of our man and man's consciousness from the beginning, moving forward. And when you look at it in that way, you see the progress. And it helps explain to some extent the primitive nature, if you will, of much of the activity of the Old Testament. But we move, and it is a study of our growth in consciousness. And indeed, our own lives are a study in consciousness to get back what it is that we have had when we were born. We're created in body, but out of this consciousness that we call God. And we don't have that feeling anymore. We move forward with our points of view, with all of the ideas that fill up our space with many ideas that are not of the divine. So if we think about moving forward and growing in consciousness, then a lot of things seem to make they fit together. Because as I have experiences, if I look at my life as a series of experiences that help me grow, growth opportunities, if you will, that it puts a perspective that's different from, that just happened to me. It's a different way of looking at it, and it's a choice. Ernest Holmes said that there is only one ultimate reality, but within the one, there are many experiences. And I thought, what a handful of stuff that he's saying. So as I think about all of that, I started thinking about the parables. The parables that we are studying it and Learn to Live. And so naturally, I would think about it because I'm enjoying that book so much. But I also know that Jesus, not just with parables, with his stories, his teaching was affirmative. He didn't say in the teachings, don't do this. He modeled in his stories what to do and how to be. And of course, there's metaphysical meanings for many of the words, and it's useful if you understand some of that going into it. But I know that many of us, for example, we all come here, or earn, I should say, in our lifetime, certain biases. And one of them is that we like to talk to people that are like us, and mostly in the words that we say and in the ideas that we have. We'll even seek out things that we agree with. And that's one. And then there are biases where someone who is outside of us is not one of us. And you recognize the Good Samaritan as that's a well-known parable. And it was Jesus teaching about the other, because the Samaritan was not looked well upon by the Jews that were where he was. And so he has the Samaritan be a hero in that story. When the hero came along, after all of these special religious people had passed by and hurried by, it was the other who became the savior, if you will. So he just tells the story. And he doesn't say in that parable, as he does in some, but it's implied, let him who has ears to hear and eyes to see, to hear and to see. And so in the parables, he is addressing the human frailties. And to me, what is interesting is they weren't different 2,000 years ago than they are right now. They're not different. The Bible is a history of human nature, if you will. And it moves through, and it does change when you study the Old Testament. There is a transformation. And of course, when we get to the idea that there's love in addition to law, as happens in the New Testament, there is love that is part of this element, that things transform. So in the Learn to Live, there is a parable called the parable of the tares, and that would be of the wheat and the tares, if you will. And that's one that we are studying now, but that is about, it begins to talk a little bit more about how the consciousness is specific to us. It is not just true in generalities that the seed that falls on everyone equally, it's more specific in the parable of the tares. And then there is another parable that's further along in the book, and it is a different concept, and it is called, let me make sure I get this right, it is called the parable of the lost sheep and the lost coin. And in the parable of the lost sheep, you are familiar with this possibly. The shepherd had 100 sheep, and one of them wandered off. Well, the shepherd raced off, left the 99 on their own, but raced off to get the one that was lost. It was so important to find that sheep. So when he finds the sheep and brings it back, there was great rejoicing. And he couples it with the woman who had 10 coins, and she lost one. She takes her house apart. She cleans things. She looks under. She moves furniture till she eventually finds the lost coin. And again, there is rejoicing. There is celebration for the one that was lost. And so that is the theme that moves through what Jesus is talking about. When something is lost, we absolutely celebrate the finding of it. And see, that was my experience. When I went to retrieve that purse, I had to take a train ride to do it, but when I got it back, I mean, it's coupled with relief because I got my ID back and I could get on the plane, but it's coupled with all of these things, that joy. And the day that I did find that envelope on the grass, I was so excited. And I don't go home and look at a purse with stuff in it and get excited because it wasn't lost. But the thing that was lost, I'm celebrating. And so all of that was going through my mind yesterday when India found her ring. And I realized that it's a phenomenon that we have. And so it's really about consciousness. And it's about how we are moving through things. And see, the other thing is, the fact that it is lost is part of our growth experience. Because in thinking about all of this, I realized that very recently, I have misplaced things. They weren't lost, but I misplaced them. I couldn't remember where I put them. So I spend this time looking for them. And all of that came flooding back to me. So then I start looking at it more, what is in that lesson for me? And I get to take a look at that, because when I find that thing, of course I'm joyous. But then my question to myself is, what was going on with misplacing it in the first place? What do I get from that? And see, that is to me, let him who has eyes to see and ears to hear comes in. And whatever lesson that I draw from it may be different, quite likely is different from anyone else's. And that's the beauty of the parables. They are designed for those who pay attention to that. So in talking about the parable of the lost sheep, Irvin Seal also talks about a Persian parable that I think is very interesting. The man in the Persian parable, a man went to the gates of heaven, and he wanted to come in. And so he was told by the guards that he could only enter when he brought earth's most prized possession. So he went back and brought gold and jewels and all kinds of wonderful things, and he brought them and he set them down at the gate, and matchless jewels is what it said. So the guards said, the streets of this city are paved with gold, and its walls are of precious stones, meaning this is nothing. So the man went away, and a second time he returned, and he brought the sword of Alexander, conqueror of the world. And the answer from the guard this time was, Alexander is dust. The least of our messengers slew him in his frailty. Earth's strength is weakness here. So the man left again. And this time, he came back for the third time to seek earth's most prized possession. This time, he brought the lost books of Solomon, wisdom. And the guard replied, man's wisdom is folly here in heaven, where all things are known fully. At last, the man came to heaven's gate and brought nothing. And the angel of the gates let him in. When we are living in this world, no matter how much we accumulate, no matter how much we have, we only leave this world with the consciousness that we have grown in the time we are here. That is the gift. That is the gift to give. It is the gift that we have to give. And so in the time, from the beginning of time to the end of time, that is our job, is to grow in consciousness. And as he puts it, that we are seeking the consciousness of the presence of God. And when we have that, we have the greatest gift. And that is what we have to experience. I love the story of lost things and found things. And I had such a great experience personally moving through all of this as I put together the remarks I was going to say today. And so I'm going to close with something that my family has enjoyed very much, and it's very secular, but also very spiritual at the same time. As soon as I find it. Angela Lansbury passed this last week, and she has been incredibly successful in her stage and in her television career. But there was nothing that she did in our family that was as fun to us and as memorable as her role in Beauty and the Beast, which is one of my daughter's favorite musicals. I cannot tell you how many times we've seen that over the last couple of decades. And her song that begins, "A tale as old as time, true as it can be, barely even friends, then someone bends unexpectedly." And so what that reminds me is that as we strive toward expressing the consciousness of God, we don't often do it in leaps and bounds. We do it as we grow in understanding. And that is our journey, is moving a step closer to understanding more of what it's like to be the consciousness of feel the consciousness of God's presence in me, so that I live from that space and grow from that space. The tale as old as time, tune as an old as song, bitter, sweet, and strange, finding you can change and learning that you were wrong. Certain as the sun, certain as the east, sun being in the east, a tale as old as time. I am very emotional about this whole idea, and I seek to be that in my own life, and I invite everyone to consider whatever it is that we need to be more understanding, to move into the space even when we don't agree, and make a small change, and recognize that it can be met by another small change. It's open to all of us. And I'm just saying yes to that. And so it is. Does anyone have, oh, yes, we have to do the money, don't we? Can't forget the money. Divine love consecrates my gift. It goes forth to heal, to bless, and to prosper all those who receive. Oh, good. Now it's in the sharing of my good, and I release my gift with love. And so it is. Thank you. So, does anyone have a question or a comment or an experience? And someone is bringing me the microphone. I'll just do it today if we don't have. Okay. Does anyone have a question or a comment? And I will bring the microphone to you so that people that are watching online, and sometimes people online have questions or comments, and that's good too. You know, I'm not saying I count on you, but I love having you here.
Well, thank you so much. It's interesting because as you were feeling emotional, I feel like crying myself. But it is interesting because my learning, I guess I could say, in the last week particularly.
Can you hold that to your, yeah.
Has been particularly along the lines that you say. And I loved what you said just at the end there about something about what it meant to me is growing to the point that you can realize that you're wrong. Ooh, owie, you know. and I was noticing in my behavior recently, I thought I'm becoming a grouchy old woman or something, but I feel very impatient sometimes with people, like, you know, especially at work. And I thought, I'm being kind of a brat, you know, I don't like this. And so I decided to change that and to just take a deep breath and be patient. And I thought yesterday I got like an overdose of, oh, right, so you're going to grow? Try this. And we were working under a deadline, and the minister writes his article on Tuesdays, and the administrator wants me to edit it and get it to her so that she can finally, you know, we can all go home eventually. So, and then I thought, well, I'll have the secretary do something that'll keep her really busy while I'm doing this, and that'll be good, you know. And so I gave her something to do, and every time I'd be into the editing, she'd say, Anne, I'm having trouble with this, you know. And I, oh my God. And I said, you know, I really have to get this thing edited. Can we do this tomorrow? You know, because the thing I gave you could wait. Well, no, she could not wait until tomorrow. So there must have been, I would say 10 times during me trying to edit this thing and get it to our administrator that she called me because she needed help. And I was able to just be patient, be kind with her, realize that she really needed this to be done, and next time I won't give her anything like that while I'm trying to edit something. But I found myself very easily able to be patient if I just happened to think that I needed to do that. So thank you for that. There were many, many other things, too, about the lost and found, and it goes on, but I'll give it back.
That was the payoff at the end, right?
Yeah, it was.
Some of you may or may not know that Anne works at another center of science of mind, too. So we have some of the same experiences. David.
I love what you said about when we leave this world, consciousness is what we have to give. And back to what you said about when you lose something. I lost my car in a parking lot last Saturday. And for those few minutes, I thought it was towed or I thought it was stolen. And then when I found the car, I rejoiced. So
Yes, yes.
thank you for that. The whole service was excellent. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you for that. I've lost my car in a Costco parking lot too, because the new place that I go to, they all look alike. I've gotten better about it. It's about noticing where I park it than I used to. Anyone else? Oh, Vincent, good to hear you.
Thank you. Yeah, and what Anne was saying was reflecting on what I was going to in the service today, which is, I've lost objects and had interesting lessons around that, but, also it's doing work on I've had periods of where I've lost my sense of gratitude and finding my sense of gratitude again, or, I've lost my self-love and working towards finding that again. So, and patience is another thing too, where you lose that sense of where that is, and it's all about finding the center again. And so I really loved your service today because I heard it on a lot of different levels. So thank you.
Thank you, Vincent. Well, one of the things that I didn't choose to say, didn't talk about, is I think that many people, we've been through this special time that we've had, and many people feel that they have lost something. And I don't mean people necessarily, I'm not speaking of that, but something else. And so it is nice to, take a moment to notice what you have and perhaps what you gained, because that's the consciousness that helps you to find that if you actually look for it. One of the things that we often say is that there is good in everything when I look for it. Good comes from this when I look for it. And so that is a consciousness, and that is a growth, and that's what we're really here to do. And I like to believe that this center is here to help as many people do that as possible. That's what I'm choosing to believe and to support. So if that's everything, then thank you all for being here. And I really appreciate it. Oh, we got one more. Well, late entry. Put it close to your mouth there.
Oh, is it on now? Yeah. I wasn't going to share until you said, and this is how I say it to myself, how you handle the issue is the issue.
Yes, how you handle the issue is the issue.
And it was when you said that consciousness from the Persian metaphor is we're bringing ourselves to heaven's gate, awake and conscious. And in the, I'm calling it a metaphor of me beyond planet Earth, but the use of the word woke has taken a very negative journey. And every time I hear that, reframe issues as blessings, I say, and yes, I'm awake.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
And what I learned one time that was so helpful, I say I'm part of the solution. And I was told many years ago that when I heal something, it helps the earth and the energy. And I really liked that because I thought little old me, but we're all little old me's making a difference.
Well, maybe this is also a good time to remind myself and remind always that many times we teach the concept that it's not what happens to us, it's how we deal with it. I mean, that's a familiar thing. I know you've heard that before. But it is true. And it also is true that at that point when there is this tendency possibly to react, that there is a pause. There is a space of time, and that's the gift that we have. If we choose to use it to respond, is the word we usually use, instead of react. And I'm still learning that, for sure. And I'm inviting everyone to, whether you're still learning it or that it's okay, we're still here. We're still walking this earth, this three-dimensional plane. There's something to learn. If I already knew it all, I might not be here. So if there's nothing else, then we shall open the doors and go. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the questions and the comments. I appreciate them all very much, and so do the people who are listening. Adios.